Imagine winning every battle without lifting a sword. Imagine holding power without anyone realizing how you got it. That's not fantasy. It's straight out of Machiavelli's playbook. And today I'll show you how. Who was Machiavelli? Niccolò Machiavelli, 1469-1527, was a Florentine diplomat, civil servant, and political thinker who lived through a violent, unstable Italy of warring city-states, foreign invasions, and rapid power swings between republics and ruling families. From 1498 to 1512, he served the Florentine Republic as a senior official, second chancellor, handling diplomacy and defense. He met and closely observed players like Cesare Borgia, French and Spanish envoys, popes, and mercenary commanders. Those front-row experiences are the raw material behind his ideas. In 1512, the Medici family returned to power in Florence. Machiavelli was dismissed, accused of conspiracy, tortured, and sent into internal exile at his farm in Sant'Andrea in Percusina. Out of that forced silence came his most famous works. Why he wrote The Prince, written 1513, published posthumously, was a short, hard-hitting manual on how a new ruler can gain, consolidate, and keep power in dangerous times. He dedicated it to Lorenzo de' Medici, partly as a job application, partly as a warning about political reality. It is blunt because the politics he'd seen were blunt: betrayal, shifting alliances, mercenary armies, sudden coups. Rather than describing how rulers should behave morally, he described how they do behave and what actually works. What people often miss: Machiavelli wasn't only the be ruthless guy. Alongside The Prince, he wrote Discourses on Livy, c. 1517, a big defense of republican government, Citizen Armies and Civic Virtue, the Art of War, 1521, on military organization and why citizen soldiers beat unreliable mercenaries. History of Florence, 1525. Age, sweeping political history to educate elites on recurring patterns. So he wasn't a one-note advocate of tyranny. He studied how systems succeed or fail. Core ideas: virtu versus fortuna. Virtu is adaptable excellence, skill, courage, timing. Fortuna is luck and chaos. You can't control fortune, but you can build capacity, move fast, and exploit openings. Appearances matter. People judge by what they see. Managing reputation is a strategic asset. The fox and the lion. Be cunning enough to spot traps and strong enough to deter wolves. Use both intelligence and force selectively, feared or loved, ideally both. If you must choose, being reliably feared, through consistent consequences, not cruelty, is safer than being weakly loved. Stability, popularity. Don't outsource your core power. He distrusts hired guns and fair-weather allies. Build your own loyal base. Teams, capabilities, information. Act decisively, but not recklessly. Slow indecision breeds contempt. Swift, well-timed moves create momentum. Why he still matters: his frameworks map cleanly onto modern life. Business and careers, brand, reputation, timing product launches, negotiating from strength, building in-house capability versus outsourcing. Leadership, balancing empathy with accountability, shaping narratives inside and outside the org. Personal strategy, choosing battles, reading incentives, acting with calm under uncertainty. A balanced view of Machiavellian. People use Machiavellian to mean manipulative. But Machiavelli also insisted on competence, preparation, and public stability. He condemned pointless cruelty and self-destructive vanity. His real message: face the world as it is, not as we wish it to be, and build durable power by understanding incentives, institutions, and human nature. Ready to record paragraph narration. Niccolò Machiavelli was a Florentine diplomat who watched power change hands at sword point and learned its rules from the inside. After the Medici returned and pushed him out, he wrote The Prince, not as a moral sermon, but as a field manual for surviving unstable politics. He taught that success blends virtue, adaptive skill, with an honest reading of fortuna, the chaos we can't control. Appearances matter, reputation is leverage, and the wise leader is both fox and lion, clever enough to avoid traps, strong enough to deter threats. Though he's famous for ruthlessness, Machiavelli also defended republican systems and citizen strength in his discourses. That's why he still matters. The same principles, timing, narrative capability, decisive action, govern boardrooms, careers, and negotiations today. His advice isn't be cruel. It's see clearly, prepare relentlessly, and win with strategy. The lion versus the fox. The lion represents strength, courage, and intimidation. Lions can scare off wolves and enemies by sheer presence. But lions have a weakness. They're not subtle. They fall into traps because they rely only on power. The fox represents cunning, intelligence, and strategy. Foxes can detect traps, trick hunters, and survive by being clever. But foxes can't fight wolves head-on. They can't rely on strength alone. Machiavelli's point is simple. If you are only strong, you'll be outsmarted. If you are only clever, you'll be overpowered. To survive and succeed, you must be both. Power without noise when he says one must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. He's teaching balance in leadership and power. Use intelligence to see dangers before others do. Use strength to protect yourself and establish authority. Apply both in the right measure, at the right time. Why it matters today, in business, being all lion looks like aggressive expansion without planning, leading to collapse. Being all fox looks like clever talk without delivery, leading to mistrust. The leaders who last mix strategy with decisive action. In personal life, think of someone who is smart enough to avoid toxic situations, fox, but also confident enough to stand their ground when challenged, lion. The core idea Machiavelli's lesson isn't about cruelty. It's about adaptability. True power doesn't come from being loud, violent, or reckless. It comes from knowing when to be subtle, when to be bold, and how to blend both without drawing unnecessary attention. That's what he meant by power without noise. Appear weak, act strong. Machiavelli suggested that sometimes showing too much power too early creates resistance. If you boast, brag, or flex strength openly, others unite against you. But if you seem harmless, people lower their guard. They stop preparing. This gives you the advantage of surprise. While they're distracted or relaxed, you quietly build resources, alliances, or knowledge. Then, when the timing is right, you act decisively and catch them off guard. Modern example. In business, a startup may act like a small, non-threatening player while quietly developing groundbreaking technology. By the time big companies notice, it's too late. Control perception. Machiavelli famously wrote that people judge more by what they see than what they feel. Perception is often more powerful than truth because humans act on what they believe. If people believe you're strong, reliable, or successful, they will treat you as such, even if your reality is still developing. Conversely, if you seem weak or disorganized, you'll lose influence, regardless of your actual ability. Modern example. Leaders who dress, speak, and act with authority often command respect before they prove themselves. Influencers who project success online often attract real opportunities. Divide and distract instead of exhausting yourself by attacking rivals directly. Let them attack each other. Create situations where your competitors' interests clash. Spread their focus thin, so they can't unite against you. Once they're divided, you can quietly move forward without resistance. Modern example. In politics, a candidate may highlight small differences among opponents so that they spend energy fighting one another. In business, companies might introduce competing offers that confuse rivals. Pricing or positioning. The quiet exit. Machiavelli warned that retreating at the right time isn't cowardice, it's wisdom. Not every battle is worth fighting. Sometimes, stepping back allows you to preserve your energy, reputation, or resources for a bigger opportunity. By retreating strategically, You avoid unnecessary losses and prepare for the perfect comeback. Modern example. A business might pull out of an overcrowded market to focus on a niche where it can dominate later. A person might leave a toxic group quietly, keeping their strength and network for a better environment. The core lesson. These 4 tactics show that Machiavelli's real power advice wasn't about being loud or brutal. It was about being subtle, smart, and patient. Hide your strength until the right time. Shape how others see you. Let rivals weaken themselves. Step back when necessary, so you can strike when the odds favor you. That's what he meant by quiet victory. Why this matters today when we look at the world around us, business, politics, even everyday workplaces, Machiavelli's lessons are everywhere. His core idea was that power isn't always about who yells the loudest or pushes the hardest. Instead, it's about who understands timing, perception, and human nature. Business and corporate life. The lion approach, being aggressive, loud, and dominant, can grab short-term attention, but it rarely builds lasting influence. The leaders who thrive are often the foxes, strategic, observant, and patient. They know how to build alliances quietly, shape narratives, and step into opportunities when the moment is right. For example, CEOs who control perception by managing brand image and investor confidence often win more than those who only focus on brute expansion. Politics. Machiavelli lived in a world of constant political intrigue, and the same is true today. The politicians who last aren't always the ones who make the most noise, but the ones who manage relationships, anticipate threats, and know when to compromise or retreat strategically. They practice quiet victories, winning influence behind the scenes while their rivals burn energy in the spotlight. Workplace and personal life. In the workplace, it's tempting to think being the loudest, most visible person guarantees success, but often those who constantly shout for attention eventually burn out or reveal their weaknesses. Meanwhile, the person who listens carefully, builds trust, and chooses the right moment to speak can quietly win promotions, deals, or influence. The same applies to personal relationships. Subtle understanding and timing usually win more than constant force or pressure. The core point. This is why Machiavelli still matters. His philosophy isn't about cruelty, it's about strategy. It's about recognizing that real power is often silent, patient, and precise. The ones who dominate aren't always the ones making the most noise. They're the ones who move smartly and win without fighting. The most powerful victories are invisible. This means the best wins aren't always dramatic battles or loud celebrations. True mastery is when you win so smoothly that no one notices the struggle. Instead of clashing head-on, you arrange circumstances so the outcome looks natural, almost inevitable. The best wins leave your enemies confused, wondering if they ever lost at all. Here Machiavelli is pointing towards subtle domination. If you defeat someone openly, they'll remember and may seek revenge. But if you maneuver cleverly, through alliances, perception, or timing, they may never even realize you outplayed them. By the time they notice, the advantage is already yours, and they have no energy left to resist. That's the art of quiet power. Quiet power is about strategy over noise, patience over aggression, and precision over chaos. It's not about brute force, it's about influence. Instead of exhausting yourself in visible fights, you shape outcomes behind the scenes, so success feels effortless. Why it's powerful for today in business. The companies that dominate aren't always the ones boasting loudly. They're the ones building quietly, striking when competitors least expect it. In life, you don't have to prove your strength every time. Often the greatest power is not letting others see your moves until it's too late. Machiavelli's final lesson is simple. The highest form of power is subtle control. If you can achieve your goals without conflict, without resistance, and even without others realizing they've been outmaneuvered, that is the ultimate victory. So, what do you think? Would you rather be the lion, the fox, or both? Drop your answer in the comments, and remember, sometimes the smartest way to win is without fighting at all.